Everyone likes to believe New Zealand is insulated, small, stable, far away from global chaos. But distance doesn't equal protection anymore. Energy shocks, geopolitical tension, fragile supply chains, these forces don't care where you sit on the map. And to break this down, we're joined by someone who has seen both sides of the system. Maurice Williamson, former Cabinet Minister and now Auckland councillor. He's been inside government when decisions are made, and now he's watching how those decisions play out in the real world. So here's the question. Is New Zealand actually resilient, or have we quietly become one of the most exposed economies in the developed world?
Well, I think we are exposed because there are a whole range of things we don't do ourselves. And obviously we don't have a petrochemical industry, and we closed the refinery, even though that would have required us getting access to crude. So it's not the big game changer. Or if you'd had Marsden Point still, you could have produced our own petrol. While the tanker arriving with petrol and the tanker arriving with crude are pretty much coming from the same location. But I think we are exposed quite dramatically to these shocks, probably more so than other places. And I think that the thing that's being undersold for the New Zealand public right now is both the depth that the damage will be. I think it'll be a lot more severe than anyone's forecasting, and I think it'll go for a lot longer than anyone's forecasting.
And what structural weaknesses do we have? I mean, oil is enough of a weakness, but what else are we going to miss out on?
Well, it's interesting, the interlinkages of just about everything on the planet. If you sit down with a sheet of A3 paper and a black felt pen, you sort of say, well, petrol prices are going up. Well, that means it's going to cost me more to fill my car. I promise you that isn't even beginning to fill out the page. Even things like the farming sector, who you will have extra costs of doing their farm work with tractors and diesel price and so on, but also getting their products to market overseas, and those markets taking such a hit that their produce won't be in such demand. But how about even things like the fertilizer industry, which is very linked to petrochemicals? And if you aren't able to run the petrochemicals that you need, you've got no fertilizer going on the land, so your production, the tourism industry, one of the little highlights that came out of the 0.2% of our GDP growth, what an emaciated 0.2%, was about a 7.8% increase in overseas visitor spend. That's gone.
Yeah,
that's gone.
The prices of getting here has just gone up 20%.
And so the one that was holding us into that 0.2, that piddly little 0.2, that's gone. And so you're going to see nowhere near the tourism industry, and if there is nowhere near the tourist spend, and so every sector of our economy, there is going to be nobody that's exempt from this. From the building sector to the tourism sector to the agricultural sector to everything is going to be impacted by it. And I think that we need to, the problem is everyone is so exhausted from these 1 in 100 year crises. We've had about 12 in the last 10 years from, the financial crisis, the global financial crisis, and then we've had things, COVID, and we had the Christchurch earthquake, and we've had a whole range of other things.
Most people try to start a business from scratch. That's the hardest way to do it. The smarter path is buying an established business. Business Apprentice shows you how that actually works. Business Apprentice NZ, the practical path into business ownership. Is it a get out of jail free card for National? Because this is basically force majeure. There's a war. It might not end for a long time. Can we push this planned surplus out another 10 years? And should we just cut the fuel price? Is that going to fix things?
Yeah, okay. Well, let's deal with fuel price first. The worst thing you could ever do would be to take the excise tax down or cut fuel price, because we are going to need to dampen down demand. We are going to get so much less supply. We know that. We know the number of tankers that are coming that might even just cancel the book and say sue us, or whatever.
Turn the ship around.
Or turn the ship around and go to somewhere that's paying more or whatever, or safer, or less distance to travel to drop it. We are going to get less supply. There's no doubt about that, and I think that could be for quite a long period of time. Now, best law of supply and demand is you have to now dampen down demand. Best tool for dampening down demand is price. So I do not want to see fuel stay at a moderately reasonable price at the pump, because that means we've got no supply to keep supplying it. Price will become the regulator. And I don't want somebody with a fancy big Mercedes putting his boat on the back and saying, I'm heading off to Pawanui for the weekend and I got my fuel a lot cheaper at the pump today. That's not what it should be. So any assistance the government's got to now put in place, and it will have to do something, has got to be so well targeted and not sending it off to people that were dead or French tourists like they were. Remember under COVID, they were sending assistance packages to dead people and people that were French backpackers living in New Zealand. So they're going to have to find a way of picking up those workers in sectors and areas where fuel costs them big time. You know, those people that do healthcare visits and all that, we're sometimes doing a couple of $1,000 a week. There's got to be a way of targeting that assistance through the family support package or however through Inland Revenue or MSD, but it's got to be well targeted, well focused, and only delivered to those people that are literally unable to carry on their normal lives of what they were doing. You cannot just say to everyone, oh, we'll do something to bring the price of petrol down for you all, because you're just putting off to another day the misery and heartbreak.
Well, Luxon has come from corporate background. Maybe this is his crisis management will come into play, and he knows how to pull strings and levers to cut costs and take drastic action. Imagine you're sitting on that front bench again.
Yep.
What would you be doing?
Well, I'll tell you what I'd done first thing up, because the moment that I heard that morning when I woke that the planes were bombing, I said, right, Jesus. I went straight to my Z app and bought several hundred litres of fuel, and so did Simon and so did Raywin, because I don't know whether you know, but on Z you can buy it.
Pre-buy. Yeah.
It's a huge, it's just an artificial tank on your app. It's a virtual tank of fuel, and I've got 1,000 litres of diesel or something in there now, and I bought it at that price, and it's now nearly double that and so on. So that's what I would jump very quickly. And when I talk about jumping quickly, I would not, as the Prime Minister, head off to the Pacific Islands to seek a title as a chief. I would have said, cancel this, call the PM in Samoa, say, really sorry, we'll do it another day, promise you, but I need to be here, and I need to be with Judith Collins and Winston when they cross the Tasman. I want a session booked with Albo, so it's Prime Minister to Prime Minister. Right from day one, I look like I'm taking command, stop this, move that, get this out of the way, move that. And sadly, he hasn't done that yet. I give real credit to Nicola Willis at this point. She has been doing way better media and looks way more in command and way more on top of things.
If you're serious about owning a business, stop guessing how it works. Business Apprentice teaches the practical side of business investment and acquisition. Real numbers, real deals, real ownership. Business Apprentice NZ, applications now open. Yeah, when you look at the unions pushing for extra 2, 3, 4% pay rises, we're dealing with a wartime situation.
Yep.
There's going to have to be negotiation somewhere. Government's going to have to give handouts or subsidies or...
Correct, but it's got to be so tightly targeted to those people that are desperately in that need and can't function without it. The moment you do any scattergun across the board stuff, whole lots of people become beneficiaries of it. They don't need to drive their car. I mean, one of the things I think they'll do is quickly, I hope they do, is implement the working from home again, because there's a big chunk of the workforce that can do nearly everything they need to. I mean, we hold council meetings where we all drive from all over Auckland for the day, sit listening to mindless twaddle meetings and then drive home again. You could have had the whole lot on your bloody screen with all the audio and all the graphics and take part. So I hope they'll do some of those quick changes. I see in the Herald that Nicola Willis is saying that's certainly under consideration. But you do not want to be... See, if you drop the petrol tax, if you drop the excise tax, that's a big revenue drop for the government. All that means is that you're adding more to the debt mountain. Most people don't get it.
Everyone benefits.
Every public meeting I used to go to, they were always saying, well, I reckon the government could be spending more on this, and I think the government should be spending more on that. And then I say, right, and how many of you are prepared to pay another $520 tax a month? Oh, no, we can't afford that. I said, well, here's your problem. You've just given me a big list of things you want the government to be spending more on. The government is only a clearinghouse for your and my money.
So is this the catalyst the coalition needs to finally cut the public headcount? Because we got to rein in.
Have to.
We got to rein something in.
Have to. Well, there's
selling
three
assets.
Things. If they do this well, look, I'll put coefficients of likelihood on these. If they do this really well, they could come out of it as the heroes of the whole thing and be romped back with a massive majority, a little bit like Jacinda did in 2020. Yeah. Okay, because she was seen as the hero of COVID for the first couple of years, or the first year or two, 2019 and then 2020. If they don't get it right, the blame will still lay with them because everyone knows that things haven't got better, and all the stuff that Luxon keeps saying is, we've turned the economy around, we've got the place back on track. That's not being felt at the coalface. You talk to anybody you wish to, and I talk to so many people, they say, well, I'd love to know where this recovery is that we getting told about. So if it doesn't come, people have already baked in the fact that it's the current government's fault. If we'd been on a pig's back and everything was brilliant, I can't be, you've no idea, we're another holiday, we're off to the Bahamas for another 3 weeks, and suddenly this had come and then everything turned to custard, it would be Iran war fault, not the government. But most people felt we were already in the poo.
So this is Luxon's time to shine.
Now, if he does it right, or if the whole team does it right, and they really focus on good quality policy, and they really focus on things that make a difference to getting us safeguarded from the real dangers. Remember, we'll all take a hit.
Yeah.
The idea that we'll try and find a way of not taking a hit. If one of the most important commodities to our entire well-being, that is the transportation sector, our own cars, the agricultural sector and so on, if that's taken the hit it's taken, it has to flow through to hurt. And you cannot shield us from some of that hurt. You can minimise the level of the dent, and it's only a small indent rather than a massive big bloody sledgehammer in the side of the car. But you can't minimise it, or if you do, you'll have only built it up as a dent mountain that's going to kill you some years or more years later. So they've got to be very careful, really thoughtful targeting. I think through the Working for Families tax credits or some way of saying to people that are in real dire, you can put a case to MSD, they will look at your particular circumstances. It's going to take quite a few more workforce in the MSD, but you've got plenty of public servants elsewhere you could easily move over.
Repurpose,
But in the end, I'll give you the coefficients. I reckon there are about a 20% chance they'll get this right and come out of it smelling of roses and look like they're a fabulous government. I think there's an 80% chance they'll be blamed for not having fixed it and blamed for a whole lot of other things that wouldn't have been their fault. But what was their fault was we were never coming out of the big depression we'd been dropped into, even if there hadn't been an Iran war.
Well, let's have fingers crossed they can figure it out. Appreciate your insights today, Maurice.
Pleasure.
Most people don't lose because they take obvious risks. They lose because they misunderstand the environment they're dealing with. And right now, that environment is shifting faster than most people realize.